Captain Ben Harper looked out at the mining platforms of New Denver Colony and felt something he had never felt before. It was not fear, even though he should be scared. It was not anger, even though the aliens had threatened his home. It was determination, pure and simple. Ben was 38 years old and had run the mining operation on New Denver for 6 years. His colony had 50,000 people, all working to dig valuable metals from the asteroid field around their space station. They were not soldiers, but they were tough people who knew how to work with dangerous equipment every day. "Chief Roberts, come to my office, please." Ben called over the communication system. Katie Roberts appeared a few minutes later. She was the best engineer Ben had ever worked with, able to fix anything and build things that should not work but somehow did. She was also the smartest person on the station. "I know what you're going to ask," Katie said before Ben could speak. "And yes, I think we can do it." "Do what exactly?" Katie smiled. "Turn our mining equipment into weapons. Those big plasma cutters we use to slice through rock, they can slice through alien ships too. The magnetic launchers that shoot ore containers between platforms, they can shoot other things just as well." Ben sat down heavily. "Katie, we're talking about fighting aliens with planet-cracking weapons. Are you sure we can make a difference?" "Captain, I've been thinking about this for days. These aliens are used to fighting other aliens with alien technology. They expect shields and energy weapons and space battles. They don't expect humans, with mining equipment who refuse to give up." Meanwhile, on Haven Prime, Colony Administrator Steve Johnson was having a similar conversation with his people. Haven Prime was an agricultural world with 2 million people spread across 3 continents. They grew food for 12 other human colonies and took great pride in their work. Maria Rodriguez ran the hydroponics facility that fed half the colony. She was a small woman with big ideas, and she had been working day and night since the alien message came. "Steve, you need to see what we've done," Maria said, as she led him into the main growing facility. What Steve saw amazed him. The huge tanks that normally grew vegetables were now producing something else. The air smelled sharp and dangerous. "We've converted the fertilizer production lines," Maria explained. "Everything we use to help plants grow can also be used to make things explode. We've got enough chemical compounds here to make the aliens very sorry they picked a fight with farmers." Back on the lead Zephyrian ship, Admiral Vextar was getting reports that confused him. His scouts had been watching human colonies for weeks and the behavior made no sense. "Supreme Admiral," his intelligence officer reported, "the humans are not following expected patterns. Instead of evacuating or gathering their military forces, they appear to be modifying their industrial equipment." Vexitar studied the data. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had seen every possible response to Zephyrian power. Species either surrendered immediately, fled to other systems, or gathered their fleets for one final desperate battle. None had ever stayed in place and started building things. "What are they building?" Vexitar asked. "We are not certain, Supreme Admiral. Our scans show increased energy usage at mining facilities and agricultural centers. Some kind of modification to civilian equipment." Vextar dismissed this with a wave of his hand. "Primitive species often waste their final days on useless projects. It changes nothing. They have 15 days to surrender or face destruction." But Squadron Leader Thexnel, who had been personally observing New Denver, was not so sure. He had watched the humans work for days, and their behavior troubled him. They moved with purpose and efficiency. They were not acting like a defeated people preparing to die. "Perhaps we should demonstrate our power early," Thexnal suggested. "Destroy one small colony to encourage the others to surrender." Vextar considered this. "Yes, choose a target. Make it clear what happens to those who defy the Zephyrian Empire." On New Denver, Captain Harper was making final preparations. His colony now looked completely different from 3 weeks ago. The mining platforms bristled with modified equipment that looked dangerous even to human eyes. "How many people do we have who know how to fight?" Ben asked his security chief, Colonel Paul Johnson. Paul was a former Earth military officer who had retired to the colonies for a quiet life. That quiet life was about to end. "About 500 with real combat, experience. But Captain, everyone here knows how to handle heavy machinery under dangerous conditions. That's almost as good. Katie Roberts joined them on the command platform. All modifications are complete. We've got plasma cutters that can reach 3 times their normal range, magnetic launchers that can fire iron slugs at incredible speeds, and the atmospheric processors are now chemical weapon factories. Ben nodded. What about the evacuation ships? Sent away this morning, Paul answered. Anyone who wanted to leave is gone. The 48,000 people still here chose to stay and fight. Ben looked around at his people. They were miners, engineers, technicians, and farmers. They had families and dreams and normal lives. But they also had something the aliens did not expect. They refused to give up their home without a fight. Commander Morrison, still hidden behind his asteroid, watched as alien scout ships began moving toward human colonies. He sent constant reports back to Earth about alien positions and movements. Amy, send a message to New Denver, Jake ordered. Tell them the aliens are coming. Amy worked at her station. Message sent, sir. New Denver acknowledges and says they're ready. Ready for what? They're miners, not warriors. I don't know, sir. But they sound confident. On Earth, President Carter read the daily reports with growing amazement. Instead of panic and evacuation, her colonies were reporting increased production, equipment modifications, and requests for raw materials. It was as if they were preparing for construction projects instead of alien invasion. General Taylor entered her office with more updates. Madam President, I'm getting reports that don't make sense. Our colonies are asking for things like industrial adhesives, chemical compounds, and high-density metals. Some are requesting technical manuals for equipment modification. Dr. Walsh had been analyzing alien communication intercepts. I think I understand what's happening. The aliens are so confident in their superiority that they're not taking basic precautions. They're treating this like all their previous conquests, a simple matter of showing up and demanding surrender. And our people? Our people are doing something no other species has ever done. Instead of trying to fight the aliens on their terms, they're changing the rules of the game. Admiral Vextar made his decision. New Denver would be the example. His fleet would destroy the mining colony quickly and completely, then broadcast the footage to every human world. The message would be clear: surrender or die. But as his ships moved into position around New Denver, something unexpected happened. The colony sent a message on all frequencies. Captain Harper's voice was calm and steady. This is New Denver Control to all Zephyrian forces. You have 30 seconds to change course or we will consider your approach an act of war. The aliens were so shocked by this message that they actually stopped moving. In their entire history of conquest, no species had ever threatened them first. They had expected begging, pleading, or offers of surrender. Instead, they got a warning from humans who sounded like they meant business. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiant and watched the stars through the main window. His ship had been traveling through space for 3 months now, looking for new planets where humans could live. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally learned how to travel faster than light. They had built homes on 12 different worlds across the galaxy, and life was good. Jake was 42 years old and had been exploring space for 15 years. He loved his job because every day brought something new. Today felt different, though. His instruments were picking up strange signals from the Kepler 442 system ahead of them. Captain Morrison, called out Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. I'm getting some weird readings here. There are ships out there, but they're not human ships. Jake walked over to look at her screen. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. There were hundreds of ships in formation, each one bigger than any human vessel ever built. They looked like nothing he had ever seen before, with strange curves and glowing parts that hurt to look at. Send a message to Earth right away, Jake told his communications officer. Tell them we found something big. Before anyone could respond, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke English, but with a cold tone that made everyone freeze. Primitive humans, you will listen and obey. I am Supreme Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 47 star systems and now we claim yours. You have 30 of your standard days to surrender all human colonies or we will destroy every last one of you. The message ended, and silence filled the bridge. Jake looked at his crew of 20 people. They were all good at their jobs, but none of them were soldiers. They were explorers, not fighters. How many ships do they have? Jake asked quietly. Amy checked her instruments again. Over 3,000, sir. Each one is at least 10 times bigger than our biggest warships. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Lisa Carter was having the worst day of her life. She sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the Capitol building. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military. General Rick Taylor, head of all Earth's armed forces, put down a thick folder of papers. The news is bad, Madam President. These aliens have weapons that can crack planets in half. Their shields stop everything we can throw at them. Our best computers say we have no chance of winning a fight. Dr. Amanda Walsh, Earth's top expert on alien life, had been studying the message from the Zephyrians for hours. I've been looking at how they talk and what they say. This isn't the first time they've done this. They've met 47 other species before us, and every single one either gave up right away or got wiped out in weeks. President Carter rubbed her tired eyes. She was 55 years old and had led Earth for 8 years through good times and bad. But nothing had prepared her for this. What about our colonies? How are they taking the news? General Taylor opened another folder. Mixed reactions. Some are starting to pack up and leave. Others are asking for weapons and supplies to fight. The mining colony New Denver says they won't abandon their homes no matter what. And our fleet? We have 800 ships total. Most are cargo haulers and colony ships. Only about 50 are real warships, and they're nothing compared to what these aliens have. Dr. Walsh leaned forward. There's something else. I've been studying their past conquests. Every species they fought used the same basic strategy. Meet them in space with their best ships and try to win a normal battle. Every single one lost quickly. President Carter stood up and walked to the window. Even though they were underground, she could see a screen showing the sky above. Somewhere out there, her people were scared and looking to her for answers. How long do we have? 26 days now, General Taylor answered. Back in space, Commander Morrison had been watching the alien fleet for 3 days. His ship was hidden behind an asteroid, but he could see everything they were doing. The aliens moved in perfect formation, never changing their pattern. They acted like they had done this many times before. Sir? Amy called out. I'm picking up transmissions from our colonies. New Denver says they're not leaving. Haven Colony says the same thing. Actually, most of our people are staying put. Jake was surprised. He expected everyone to run when faced with such overwhelming odds. What are they doing instead? Amy listened to more messages. They're getting ready to fight, sir. The miners on New Denver are modifying their equipment. The farmers on Haven Prime are doing something with their machinery, too. This made no sense to Jake. How could farmers and miners think they could fight aliens with planet-cracking weapons? But then he remembered something his grandfather used to say, when you back a human into a corner, don't expect them to just sit there and take it. On the lead alien ship, Admiral Vextar was reviewing reports from his scouts. He was over 300 years old and had never lost a battle. His species, the Zephyrians, were the most powerful in the galaxy. They had better weapons, better shields and better ships than anyone else. Supreme Admiral, reported one of his officers. The humans are not evacuating as expected. Many are staying in their colonies. Vexitar made a sound that might have been laughter. Fear makes all species act strangely at first. They will come to their senses when they see our power. But deep down, something bothered him. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species react quite like this. Usually, they either surrendered immediately or gathered their fleets for one big, desperate battle. The humans were doing neither. 20 days remained until the deadline. On Earth, President Carter made the hardest decision of her life. Instead of ordering all colonies to evacuate, she would let each one choose for themselves. If humans wanted to fight impossible odds, she would give them the tools to do it. The universe was about to learn something new about humanity. The first Zephyrian attack ships descended toward New Denver at dawn colony time. Admiral Vextar expected the battle to last no more than an hour, just like all his previous conquests. He was about to learn that humans do not fight like other species. Captain Ben Harper watched from the command center as enemy fighters approached Mining Platform 7. His hands were steady on the controls as he gave the order that would change everything. All platforms, weapons free. Show them what humans do when someone threatens their home. What happened next shocked every alien in the attacking fleet. The mining platforms did not try to run or hide. Instead, they opened fire with weapons the Zephyrians had never seen before. The massive ore extractors, normally used to pull metals from asteroids, had been turned into electromagnetic railguns. They launched chunks of dense iron at speeds that made them deadly projectiles. The first alien fighter to get hit simply disappeared in a flash of light and metal fragments. Katie Roberts coordinated the defense from her engineering station. She had spent weeks modifying every piece of equipment on the colony, and now her work was paying off. Platform 3, adjust your targeting 2 degrees left. Platform 9, increase power to your plasma cutters. The atmospheric processors designed to create breathable air for the colony now pumped out clouds of corrosive chemicals that ate through alien hull materials like acid. The magnetic launchers that moved cargo between platforms were launching surprise packages, containers filled with explosives and scrap metal. But what shocked the aliens most was not the weapons. It was how the humans reacted to casualties. When a Zephyrian energy beam destroyed Mining Platform 7, killing 300 people instantly, Admiral Vexitar expected immediate surrender. That was how every other species had responded to their first major losses. Instead, the remaining humans fought harder. Chief Engineer Katie Roberts watched her friends die on the security monitors, but her voice never wavered as she redirected more power to the weapons systems. When her own brother Pete Roberts was killed defending Mining Station 3, she calmly shut down life support to non-essential areas and used that power for the defense grid. Colonel Paul Johnson, commanding the ground forces, had turned the colony's industrial complex into a nightmare for the alien troops who managed to land. Every corridor was trapped. Every room could become an ambush point. The humans used tactics the Zephyrians had never encountered, guerrilla warfare in an environment they knew better than anyone. Squad 4, fall back to Junction 7, Paulie ordered over the radio. Let them follow you into the maintenance shafts. Squad 2 is waiting with welding torches. The aliens had energy weapons and personal shields, but they had never fought an enemy that turned everyday tools into weapons of war. Welding torches became flamethrowers. Industrial adhesives became traps that stuck alien soldiers to walls and floors. Even the food processors were weaponized, shooting boiling cooking oil at anyone who entered the cafeteria. On Earth, Dr. Amanda Walsh monitored the battle reports with growing excitement. She was seeing something that no xenobiologist had ever witnessed, a species that fought in ways the Zephyrians could not understand or counter. General Taylor, look at these tactical reports, she called out. The aliens are fighting like they expect a traditional military engagement. Formation flying, concentrated firepower, predictable attack patterns. They've never faced an enemy that improvises every weapon and refuses to follow normal combat rules. General Taylor studied the data. You're right. They commit their forces in standard patterns because they've never needed to adapt. Every species they've fought has used conventional military tactics. President Carter joined them in the war room. How long can New Denver hold out? At their current casualty rate, maybe a week, General Taylor answered. But they're taking alien ships down with them. The Zephyrians have lost more vessels in 3 days than they've lost in 3 centuries of conquest. Back at New Denver, the battle entered its 4th day. Captain Harper looked around the command center and saw exhausted faces but no surrender in their eyes. His people had lost friends, family members, and colleagues, but they kept fighting. Status report, Ben called out. Katie looked up from her station. We've lost 6 mining platforms and 12 defense stations, but we've destroyed 43 alien fighters and damaged their main assault ship. Their boarding parties have taken heavy casualties in the industrial sections. How many people do we have left? 37,000 combat capable. Another 8,000 wounded but still at their stations. Ben nodded. In any normal military engagement, losing 25% of your forces in 4 days would mean defeat. But New Denver was not a normal military operation. These were people fighting for their homes, their families, and their right to exist as free humans. Admiral Vextar stared at his battle reports in disbelief. He had committed a full battle group, over 200 ships, to taking one small mining colony. Not only had he failed to achieve victory, but his casualties were mounting every hour. Supreme Admiral, his tactical officer reported, "The humans continue to resist. Our ground forces are trapped in what they call the industrial maze. Every advance costs us more soldiers." "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded. "They are primitives, with crude weapons. We have energy shields and plasma cannons." Squadron leader Thexanel had been leading the assault personally, and his experiences troubled him deeply. "Supreme Admiral, these humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not seek to win in the traditional sense. They seek to make victory too costly for us to achieve." This concept was foreign to Zephyrian thinking. They had always won through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea that an inferior enemy might make victory itself a form of defeat was beyond their understanding. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Amy Carter had received permission from Commander Morrison to attempt a supply run to New Denver. Her small fleet of modified cargo ships was loaded with ammunition, medical supplies, and replacement parts for the mining equipment. "Remember, we're not trying to fight the whole alien fleet," Amy told her pilots. "We just need to get through their blockade and reach the colony." What followed was the kind of desperate space battle that would become legend among humans. Amy's ships used every trick they could think of, hiding in asteroid fields, using mining charges as weapons, even ramming alien vessels when their own ships were too damaged to continue fighting. The breakthrough came when Katie Roberts discovered something important about Zephyrian shields. They operated on a specific frequency that could be disrupted if multiple mining lasers fired at the same target simultaneously. "All platforms, coordinate your mining lasers on the flagship's shield generator," Katie ordered. "Fire in sequence, just like we practiced." 12 mining platforms turned their industrial lasers toward the alien flagship. These were tools designed to cut through solid rock, not weapons of war, but when they fired together in perfect timing, something amazing happened. The Zephyrian flagship's shields flickered and died. For the first time in their species' history, a Zephyrian capital ship was vulnerable to enemy fire. Captain Harper did not waste the opportunity. "All platforms, everything you have at that flagship. Now." What followed was a concentrated barrage of improvised human weapons: plasma cutters, magnetic launchers, chemical sprayers, and explosive containers. The flagship's armor was strong, but it was not designed to handle this kind of mixed attack. "Admiral." Vextar felt his ship shake as human weapons found their mark. Damage reports flooded in from all sections. His engineering staff had no idea how to repair systems damaged by human mining equipment, because no one had ever thought such weapons could be used effectively against Zephyrian technology. As his flagship limped away from New Denver, Admiral Vextar made a decision that would change everything. Instead of adapting his tactics to fight this new kind of enemy, he requested reinforcements from the Zephyrian High Command. The message he sent would echo through both human and alien space. "Request immediate support. The humans are not behaving according to acceptable parameters of warfare." 2 months had passed since the siege of New Denver began, and the news of humanity's resistance was spreading across the galaxy faster than Zephyrian ships could stop it. On dozens of worlds that had been conquered by the aliens, other species began to whisper about the humans who actually fought back and survived. President Carter stood before the emergency session of the Global Defense Council, reading reports that seemed impossible. New Denver still held out against alien assault, and more importantly, other human colonies were reporting success in their own defensive preparations. "General Taylor, give me the latest numbers," Carter requested. General Taylor opened his tablet and shook his head in amazement. "Madam President, as of this morning, 17 human colonies have reported successful engagements with Zephyrian forces. Not one has surrendered, and total alien casualties are now estimated at over 800 ships. Dr. Walsh had spent weeks analyzing captured alien equipment and intercepted communications. What she discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about their enemies. "President Carter, I need to share something important with the Council," Dr. Walsh announced. "The Zephyrian technology is advanced, yes, but it's not magical. More importantly, it's completely standardized across their entire fleet." She activated a holographic display showing alien ship designs. Every Zephyrian vessel uses the same shield frequency, the same energy signatures, the same tactical systems. They've been using identical technology for centuries because they've never needed to improve it. General Taylor leaned forward. "What does that mean for us?" "It means that once we figure out how to counter one alien ship, we can counter all of them. They've become dependent on technological superiority instead of tactical flexibility." Meanwhile, on the agricultural world of Haven Prime, Colony Administrator Steve Johnson was coordinating with defense forces across 3 continents. Maria Rodriguez had transformed her agricultural expertise into something the aliens never expected: biological warfare using modified crop genetics. "Steve, the latest batch is ready," Maria reported from the hydroponics lab. "These modified spores will eat through their hull materials in hours. We just need a delivery system." That delivery system came from an unexpected source. The farming equipment that normally planted seeds across vast fields could also disperse other things through the atmosphere. When Zephyrian ships entered Haven Prime's airspace, they found themselves flying through clouds of engineered organisms that consumed their ship hulls from the outside. Back at New Denver, Captain Ben Harper was exhausted but victorious. His mining colony had become a fortress that even the aliens could not crack. More importantly, his success had inspired humans across the galaxy. "Katie, how many ships have we destroyed now?" Ben asked his chief engineer. Katie Roberts looked up from her station, where she was designing new modifications to their defensive systems. 137 confirmed kills, Captain. But that's not the best part." "What's the best part?" "The aliens have stopped trying to take us by force. They're just sitting out there maintaining a blockade. I think they're afraid to attack us directly anymore." This was exactly what was happening. Admiral Vexstar had received reinforcements, another 1,000 ships, but he was unwilling to commit them to assault operations. The cost in alien lives and equipment was too high, and worse, word of Zephyrian defeats was spreading to other species in the galaxy. Commander Morrison, still observing from his hidden position, had become humanity's eyes and ears in alien space. His reports to Earth revealed something stunning about alien psychology. "Earth Command, this is Morrison reporting," Jake broadcast on encrypted channels. "The alien fleet is showing signs of internal discord. I'm intercepting communications that suggest different alien commanders are questioning their invasion strategy." Lieutenant Amy Carter, now promoted to full commander after her successful supply runs, had made an even more important discovery. "Sir, I've been analyzing alien communication patterns. These creatures aren't just technologically advanced. They're psychologically dependent on easy victories." "What do you mean?" "Every time they've conquered a species before, the war ended quickly, with overwhelming technological superiority. They've never had to fight a prolonged campaign against determined resistance. They don't know how to handle casualties, setbacks, or enemies that refuse to acknowledge defeat." This revelation was transmitted to every human colony, and the results were immediate. Human forces stopped trying to match alien technology and instead focused on psychological warfare, making every alien victory too costly to celebrate. On the mining station, Epsilon 7, Administrator Danny Cooper had turned asteroid mining into a deadly game. When alien ships approached his facility, they found that the asteroids themselves had been rigged with explosives and concealed weapons. "Let them come close," Danny told his crew. "When they think they're safe hiding behind that big rock, they'll get a surprise they won't forget." The surprise was that the rock itself was a weapon. Shaped charges turned innocent asteroids into massive shotgun blasts that could cripple alien ships. More importantly, the psychological effect was devastating. Nowhere in space felt safe anymore for Zephyrian forces. Dr. Walsh made another crucial discovery when studying alien prisoners captured during various battles. The Zephyrians were not just technologically rigid, they were mentally inflexible as well. President Carter, I've interviewed 12 alien prisoners, and they all show the same psychological patterns, Dr. Walsh reported. They literally cannot understand why we continue fighting when we're obviously outmatched. The concept of fighting for principles instead of tactical advantage is completely foreign to them. This led to humanity's most effective weapon, propaganda. Human colonies began broadcasting messages throughout alien-controlled space, not to threaten the Zephyrians, but to inspire their subject species. This is New Denver Control broadcasting to all intelligent life in the galaxy. Captain Harper announced on all frequencies. We are humans, and we do not surrender to bullies no matter how big their guns are. Freedom is worth fighting for, and any species that believes in freedom can win against oppression. The effect was electric. On Edo, 47 worlds, species that had been enslaved for decades began to remember what it felt like to be free. Rebellion broke out on 12 different planets, forcing the Zephyrians to divert forces from their human campaign to maintain control of their empire. Admiral Vextar found himself fighting a war on multiple fronts for the first time in Zephyrian history. His requests for additional reinforcements were denied because the High Command was dealing with uprisings throughout their territory. Supreme Admiral, his intelligence officer, reported grimly, "The situation is deteriorating. Human resistance has inspired rebellion in 17 different systems. Our forces are spread too thin to maintain effective control." Vextar stared at the tactical display showing Zephyrian forces scattered across the galaxy, trying to hold together an empire that was falling apart, all because of one species that refused to follow the rules of civilized surrender. The climactic moment came when Commander Morrison intercepted a message from the Zephyrian High Command to Admiral Vextar. The content was shocking. The aliens were considering withdrawal from human space. "Jake, are you sure about this translation?" Amy asked as she reviewed the intercepted message. "Positive. They're actually debating whether to retreat and leave us alone. Apparently, the cost of conquering humanity is higher than the value of our territories." This message was immediately transmitted to Earth, where President Carter convened an emergency session. The impossible was happening. Humanity was not just surviving, they were winning. "Dr. Walsh, in your professional opinion, what happens if we keep this up?" Dr. Walsh smiled for the first time in months. "Madam President, I believe we're witnessing the collapse of the first interstellar empire. The Zephyrians built their power on the assumption that superior technology guarantees victory. We've proven that assumption wrong." General Taylor looked at the strategic reports. "If we can hold out for another month, their entire empire might collapse under the weight of rebellions we've inspired." President Carter nodded. "Then we hold out. Signal all colonies. Tell them they're not just fighting for survival anymore. They're fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy." The message went out to every human world. Hold the line. The universe is watching, and freedom is winning. 6 months after Admiral Vextar had delivered his ultimatum to humanity, the galaxy looked completely different. The Zephyrian Empire, which had dominated space for over 3 centuries, was crumbling. Rebellions raged on 34 worlds, inspired by the human example of successful resistance. President Carter stood before the largest gathering in human history, not just representatives from Earth, but delegates from every human colony, plus secret ambassadors from 6 alien species that had joined the resistance movement. The meeting was held on New Denver, which had become a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. "My fellow humans and our allies," President Carter began, "we are here today not as conquerors, but as liberators. We have proven that freedom is stronger than fear, and courage is more powerful than advanced weapons." Captain Ben Harper, now promoted to Admiral of Colonial Defense, sat in the front row. His mining colony had become the unofficial capital of the resistance, and his miners had become heroes throughout known space. The transformation was remarkable. People who had spent their lives digging metal from asteroids were now teaching military strategy to professional soldiers from multiple species. General Taylor presented the final battle plan to the assembly. It was uniquely human in its approach. Instead of trying to match Zephyrian technology, they would use humanity's greatest advantage, the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. The Zephyrian main fleet is gathering in the Proxima system, General Taylor announced. Admiral Vextar has assembled over 5,000 ships, the largest armada in galactic history. He plans to end human resistance once and for all. Dr. Walsh stood to address the crowd. Our intelligence indicates this is not just a military decision. The Zephyrian High Command is under enormous pressure from rebellions throughout their empire. If they can crush us decisively, they believe they can restore their reputation for invincibility. Commander Morrison, recently returned from his extended reconnaissance mission, provided crucial tactical intelligence. The alien fleet is massive, but they're still using the same predictable formations and tactics they've used for centuries. They've learned nothing from our resistance. Katie Roberts, now head of colonial engineering, had spent months developing new modifications to civilian ships. We can't match their numbers or their technology, but we don't need to. Every human ship will be equipped with modifications they won't expect. The plan that emerged was audacious even by human standards. Earth's entire space fleet, 800 ships of various sizes and purposes, would meet the Zephyrian armada in direct battle. Most of the human vessels were converted cargo haulers, mining ships, and colony transports. Against 5,000 alien warships, it seemed like suicide. But humanity had learned something important about warfare that the Zephyrians never understood. Victory was not about having better weapons or more ships. It was about being willing to pay any price for what you believed in. 3 weeks later, the two fleets met in the Proxima system. Admiral Vextar commanded from his flagship, confident that overwhelming numbers would finally crush human resistance. He was about to learn the final lesson about fighting humans. The battle began at dawn, Proxima time. Human ships charged directly. At the alien formation, ignoring conventional military wisdom about formations and defensive positions, to alien observers it looked like humans had finally lost their minds and were committing mass suicide. They were wrong. Captain Harper, commanding a squadron of modified mining vessels, led the first assault on the alien flagship. His ships were loaded with mining explosives and equipped with industrial cutting tools that had been turned into weapons. When Zephyrian energy weapons destroyed his ship's engines, Harper did not retreat or surrender. Instead, he ordered his crew to abandon ship while he piloted the damaged vessel directly into the alien command ship. The impact and explosion took out the aliens' primary communications array, leaving their fleet confused and leaderless. This became the pattern of the battle. When human ships were too damaged to fight conventionally, their crews turned them into guided missiles. Cargo haulers packed with explosives rammed alien vessels at faster-than-light speeds. Colony ships used their passenger compartments to launch clouds of debris that clogged alien weapon systems. Lieutenant Amy Carter, now commanding her own squadron, demonstrated the tactical innovation that had become humanity's trademark. When her weapons failed, she used her ship's artificial gravity generator as a weapon, creating gravitational anomalies that crushed alien fighters. Maria Rodriguez, leading a group of converted agricultural ships, released clouds of her genetically modified organisms that ate through alien hull materials. Her farming equipment, designed to spread seeds across planetary surfaces, instead spread destruction through the enemy fleet. Dr. Walsh, coordinating from the command ship UHS Liberty, watched the battle unfold with amazement. General Taylor, look at these casualty reports. We're losing ships faster than the aliens, but their psychological state is deteriorating rapidly. What do you mean? They expected to face a conventional fleet using conventional tactics. Instead, they're fighting humans who turn every ship into a potential weapon and every defeat into a victory. Their commanders don't know how to respond to enemies who consider dying for freedom preferable to living as slaves. The turning point came when Commander Morrison led a desperate assault on Admiral Vextar's flagship. His small fleet of reconnaissance ships had been modified with every piece of human ingenuity Katie Roberts could pack into them. All ships, this is Morrison. Remember, We're not trying to win a space battle. We're trying to break their will, to fight. Show them what happens when you threaten human freedom. Morrison's ships used mining lasers to punch through alien shields, then deployed clouds of industrial adhesive that gummed up alien weapon systems. When the flagship's defenses were compromised, human ships swarmed it from all directions. Admiral Vextar found himself in a situation no Zephyrian commander had ever faced. His flagship was under direct assault by enemies using weapons and tactics that made no sense according to military doctrine. Worse, his crew was panicking because they had never trained for this kind of desperate, chaotic combat. The final moment came when Katie Roberts, serving as chief engineer on the Liberty, detected a critical weakness in the alien flagship's power systems. The ship's main reactor had been damaged by human mining equipment and was becoming unstable. "All human ships, clear the area around the alien flagship," Katie broadcast. "Their reactor is going critical. When it explodes, it will take out everything within 10 kilometers. But Admiral Vextar made one last desperate attempt to salvage victory from defeat. He ordered his flagship to ram the Liberty, hoping to destroy the human command ship even as his own vessel died. Commander Morrison would not let that happen. His ship was already badly damaged from the assault on the flagship. But he had enough power for one more maneuver. He positioned his vessel between the alien flagship and the Liberty, sacrificing himself to protect the human command ship. The explosion when the alien reactor detonated was visible from 3 star systems away. Admiral Vextar's flagship, Morrison's ship, and 47 other vessels were destroyed instantly. But the psychological impact was even greater than the physical destruction. For the first time in Zephyrian history, their supreme commander had been killed in battle. More importantly, he had been killed by humans using mining equipment and civilian ships. The remaining alien fleet broke and ran. President Carter's final speech was broadcast throughout the galaxy from the bridge of New Denver Station. Behind her, human ships were returning from battle, damaged but victorious. To all intelligent species in the galaxy, this message comes from humanity. We did not seek this war, but we finished it. We fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple right to exist as free beings. She paused, looking directly into the camera. The Zephyrian Empire is ended. 47 worlds that lived under alien oppression are now free to choose their own destinies. This freedom was not won by superior technology or overwhelming force. It was won by ordinary people who refused to accept that might makes right. Dr. Walsh joined her at the podium. Today marks the beginning of a new age in galactic history, the age of freedom where all species have the right to determine their own fate without interference from those who believe technology gives them the right to rule others. In the weeks that followed, the Zephyrian Empire completely collapsed. Without their reputation for invincibility, they could not maintain control over their subject worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up and claimed their independence. Humanity did not attempt to fill the power vacuum left by the aliens. Instead, Earth became the capital of a new kind of galactic alliance, one based on cooperation rather than conquest, freedom rather than fear. The final lesson of the war was simple but profound. The universe had learned that technological superiority was meaningless against an enemy that refused to accept defeat. Humanity had not won because they were stronger, faster, or smarter than their enemies. They won because they were human. President Carter's words echoed across the galaxy. They expected us to run, hide, or surrender. They never expected us to do what humans do best: